Hi, I'm Luann from Rockin Book Reviews, and I'm so excited today to be here with Michelle Ashman Bell, who is one of my very favorite authors. Years ago, um, my older daughters, persuaded me to read some fiction books that they were reading. And I had been reading nonfiction for years, but I hadn't read fiction since before I had children. And so I finally agreed to do it, and I got hooked, especially with Michelle's Bell's books. And so I kept telling people about them and wanting to share them. And um, my one daughter came to me and said, "Well, Mom, why don't you make a review blog?" And I thought, what's a review blog? But anyhow, shortly after, I created a book review blog. And so you were one of my inspirations, Michelle.
Thank you. That's so
and
wonderful to hear.
and I have most all your books. So, but I'd like to open up by introducing you actually having you introduce yourself
Okay.
by telling us a little bit about your childhood and siblings and special activities you like to do as a youth and so forth.
Okay. Well, I first want to thank you for what you do, because you kind of marry readers and authors. Like you're the common ground between both of us, where you get the word out. You've helped us so much, and you help readers so much. So thank you for what you do. And I
My pleasure.
I bet you love what you do.
I love it.
And so thank you for the time that you take to let me sit and talk about, myself and my books. But okay, so I grew up in southern Utah, and if anyone who's watching this doesn't really understand our state, because I know that, that people from all over are watching this, southern Utah on the west corner, right down at the bottom, I was born in Cedar City, Utah, which is a place where the pioneers came to do like mining for ore. And so they did a lot of iron mining there. So that's where I grew up, and it's just red hills and a lot of pine trees and just beautiful mountains, gorgeous there. But we eventually ended up in St. George, Utah, which is a little bit further south, not too far, but right in the corner of Utah, right on the border of Arizona and Nevada. So we're just kind of nestled right down there. And I'm telling you, growing up, I just thought it was such a hole. All it was to me was red sand, sagebrush, and cactuses. And I just thought, oh, this, it just was dirty and dusty. But now I look back and I realize how lucky I was to grow up in that very awesome, beautiful place. It's dinosaur land. It's red, these gorgeous red hills. Zion National Park is right there. I grew up where it's amazing, where people fly from all over the world to come visit,
Mm-hmm.
and I live there, and I'm like, oh, I didn't appreciate it. I feel so bad, but I love the culture. There was a lot of Indian reservations, and kind of where you live, I think you get a little bit of the Native American influence. And that's a huge part of who I am. I went to school with those lovely, kids there, and I grew to really appreciate who they are and their lives. And there's just different fibers of my being that came from what I grew up doing and what I was exposed to. So love the outdoors. I love to hike around and see mountains like that. I'm not like I'm going to risk my life hiker. I want to just see beautiful things and just enjoy it without, having to strap a rope around me and scale a mountain. But, I love it so much. I love it so much. But I wanted to tell you that one of the pivotal moments of my childhood, I grew up in a family of 4 girls, and I was second oldest. So I felt like we were a lot like the Little Women. Mm-hmm. That's always been one of my favorite stories, because I was Jo in the story. And it's so funny because 3rd grade, the most pivotal moment of my whole, who I became, happened in 3rd grade when my teacher started reading to us we'd come in from recess and lay our heads down and just kind of have a quiet time. And she would read from books to us. And one was called My Father's Dragon, about a little boy who finds a dragon who's lost, and they become really good friends. And the little boy helps him find his family, but they have all these adventures, and he rides on the back of the dragon and they fly around, and the dragon's striped. And oh gosh, it's just such a visual, fun book. But I remember closing my eyes during that reading time, and I'm a very visual person. And for me, the stories just came to life. I felt like I was watching a movie as she would read this story. And that's actually how I write.
Wow.
I actually feel like I'm watching the movie, but I'm recording it as I'm watching what's happening.
That's amazing to me.
It's maybe amazing or even psychotic. I don't know which.
No, amazing.
It would be a little weird, but I just fell in love with books. And then from then, I just never stopped having a book in my life. And one of the books that probably formed me the most was Little House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls Wilder, that series.
I love that.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. I was right there. I felt like I was just part of their family. I would read it all the way through and then start over and just read it. Probably read it 3 or 4 times, just straight through, constantly. Loved it so much. I was the girl in high school sitting in class with my textbook with a book inside it, reading, because I just couldn't get enough. Books have always been really important to me. So it's not a shock. It wasn't a real big leap for me to become an author. In fact, I think part of that was the control I wanted to have over stories, because if something happened, I mean, I'm still that way now. If I watch a movie and I don't like how it ends, in my mind, I rewrite it, because I'm like, well, I can't accept that happened. So I have to fix it in my head and have an alternate ending so I can be happy with how things ended up. And so I think that's why I wanted to become an author, so I could control the story and do it my way, and hopefully, make that right for readers too.
Sound like a very positive person. I have a daughter like that. If it doesn't end happily ever after, she's not going to read it.
I think there's enough horror and awful stuff in the world.
I agree.
I don't watch a movie or read a book to increase that. I want to feel like there's hope and there's good, and we can have happy endings. So, spoiler alert, all my books end happy. But
well, I think that's good, personally.
Okay. I'm glad you feel that way.
Okay. Is there any other instance in your youth that you can think of that has had an impact in your life?
I feel like the family dynamics of all our lives really are what form the people we become and the way we choose to react to situations. So I do feel I was very close to both sets of my grandparents. One of my grandfathers was a sheep herder, and he would live up in the mountains in Cedar City, and he'd be gone all summer long. And my grandma would just be like, she just kind of took care of everything without him. And she was such a strong woman. She just amazed me at just the way she would take on the family and the world and her life and just handle it without him in the picture, because she had to. And I think that her independence really shaped me, because I'm a very independent person. I have to actually remind myself that I have a husband and I can't just do everything on my own, because I could really just take off and do that. And I have to remind myself, no, you've got this partnership, and it's so valuable to me, the relationship I have with my husband. But she instilled in me a very independent spirit, which has allowed me to dare to do things that I don't know that I would have dared do on my own had I not had that I can do this attitude that I got from her. She was a very pivotal person in my life. So
it's interesting, because I have several friends whose wives are sheep herders, and I never thought of it before, but they're all that way.
Oh,
all very independent and strong women.
Yeah, and they may not have started that way, but their lifestyle kind of forced them to have to be I mean, they
Never
had
thought of
to.
that. That's
They told
interesting.
it. Yeah, it is.
Glad you brought that
Yeah.
out.
Um,
Okay, you've wanted to write professionally all your life since you were inspired in your elementary years, but it didn't happen until after you were married and a mother.
right.
Why did it take so long, and tell us the process you went through and what you
Okay.
had to do to become a writer?
I think about the time I was thinking of even attempting to write a book, it seemed like an insurmountable goal. To me, it was something that not everyone could accomplish, and I didn't even know how to accomplish it. I didn't even know that it was possible to do it, because those people who had books published to me were like celebrities, like, oh, they're an author, they're a published author. And that goal seemed so distant to me that I didn't realize it was possible for anyone really who is willing to do the work and make it happen. I didn't realize it was so possible. And you've got to remember that back in that time, even for the LDS market, there wasn't a lot of LDS fiction at the time. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to really pursue it. And so okay, so what basically happened, my from here to here, A to B story is I was reading, I always was a reader, and I've always been a journal keeper. And I feel like my journal was my creative writing school, because it was a way for me to just release all my emotions and write down my feelings and use it as a therapy, so to speak. I could kind of get it all out of my system and write it out and then feel better. So I think expressing myself through writing is like how I function. I don't know how else to put it. So I would read these books, and it started with Good Housekeeping. I was reading in, they used to put a short story every issue, and I would read these short stories and love them, and oh, they're, cute little romances or whatever. And one day I read one that I thought was so stupid and so horribly written that I literally took the magazine and just threw it. I'm like, that was so dumb. And it just bothered me. And I thought, well, I could do that. I could write better than that. And honestly, that planted a seed. That feeling and that emotion planted the seed. And so I took my two little kids. I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and we went to the library. And I felt so daring to walk down the aisle that had the how to write books, because I thought, oh, do I dare do this? Do I dare try and do something that seemed, so huge? So I grabbed a couple of those books and I took them home, and I started reading books on how to write. And it was just eye-opening, because I thought, oh, there's a formula. There's a method to the madness. It wasn't just words on a page, but there were reasons things happened the way they did, and it unfolded. And I devoured this. I just thought, oh, I want to learn everything I can about how to put a story together and what goes into it and how to develop characters and plots and blah, blah, blah. And so I read those books. I couldn't get enough of them. And then I looked in our community education flyer that came out and saw that there was a creative writing class. And to me, that was just like, oh my word, there's something for people like me. And so I signed up for this class. And again, it was just took so much courage, but having my grandmother's spirit in me, I'm like, I can do this. I'm going to try this. And so I took my little notebook that first day and walked in looking at all the people thinking, oh my word, do I fit in here? Am I going to be accepted? Can I really do this? Because I felt like everyone who came was so already accomplished that I felt like such a newbie that, oh, I won't fit in. But I was just like everybody else. And that teacher was so encouraging and so motivating and so inspiring. And he gave me that feeling of, you know what, if you want this, you can do it. So from him and meeting all these lovely people, I joined writers groups, and I became part of the League of Utah Writers and started interacting with people like me that wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I started going to classes and conventions and conferences and workshops and listening to others speak about this and learning the skills. I'm telling you though, it was like the longest process, because I think I'm a slow learner, and I was raising a family and doing all those things and having church callings and being involved in my all my life, that I couldn't devote a whole lot of time. Like, had I gone to school and actually done it, I remember taking a class though. I went to Dixie College and I took a literary class, and it was just over my head. And I'm like, oh, is this what writing's about? Because it was mostly like reading poems and examining what they meant and what was the symbolism behind it. And that to me was the other side of my brain. That wasn't the creative, I want to just create this world and these people kind of part of my brain. So for me, that soured me to writing, pursuing it, because I thought, if that's what it is, it's not for me. I should have taken creative writing classes. I had to figure a lot of this out on my own, and that's why it took so long.
But I took a creative writing class in high school, and that's what discouraged me, right?
Really?
Yeah, because she wanted me to do all these weird thoughts, right as your brain goes and so forth. And I did. I would sit there and try to concentrate. And he said, no, that's not how you do.
Oh.
Nothing I did right was in that class.
But I that makes me so sad, because if it's creative writing, there is no right or wrong way to do it.
So, I think it really depends a lot on your instructor.
Yes.
It has a big plus.
Because that instructor should have said, you know what, you're not doing it like everybody else, but celebrate that, because that uniqueness is what could have made it even more successful for you. Because I feel like those are the books that people are attracted to, the ones that are so unique and so different that we can't not. I mean, if we all followed the same pattern, they'd all sound the same. You know, we need to be breaking molds and thinking outside the box. That's my opinion, but.
Well, I think you do a great job.
Oh, I hate being stuck in a pigeonhole. I can't do that. I have to reinvent myself every book. So even though I'm known as a romance author, I feel like my books have so much variety in terms of that, under that umbrella. Some are suspense, some are, they are romance, some are mystery. They're just a little bit different, because I'm not the same person every time I write. I feel like I'm a different person every book I write, because I bring in different elements that aren't formulaic.
You do it very successfully.
Thank you. That is my goal. So I like the rule breakers and the out of the box people.
I was going to say, I've noticed that your books have changed quite a bit from the first set that I read, the love, set.
Right. And a lot, if you know
but
me.
I love that series.
Thank you. Thank you. If you know me and then you read something I've written, you can usually see what is influencing my thought process at the time of writing. For instance, I wrote a horror story, not the last book I released, but the book before that. It was a true thriller horror type story, kind of Stephen King-ish, but I had come from such a dark place when I wrote that. I'd been going through my son had been diagnosed recently with colorectal cancer. So we went through his years of chemo and facing that horrible thing. He was 28 years old. So it rocked our world, literally. And it took me to a really dark place, because I really had to dig deep to find the strength and faith to face that scary fear of possibly losing him, and what that meant for his family and for me and our family. And luckily he's emerged from that and has conquered that. But it took me to a really dark place. And I think that's where that book came from. It was me writing about a character who had to face her fears and had to triumph over that. And so I went to that dark place in that book, and it was very cathartic therapeutic. Now I'm writing happy stuff now because I was able to get rid of that. But do you know what I'm saying? For us as an author, I think we have to infuse something from ourselves in that. I don't know how you can write and not put yourself in the story. I don't know how you can. It's so personal.
Were your first books accepted, or
oh, well,
was it an easy process?
Back to that fun story. So from the day I took those writing classes until I finally had a book published was 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's a long time to stick with something that you fail at.
Absolutely.
In fact, most people would say only someone really stupid would do that. Because why would you fail at something for 11 years?
I think it's admirable myself.
Well, I should be on a poster for persistence, because that's the one thing I'm really good at. It's persisting. But, you know, Luann, I got to tell you, something kept me believing I could do it. And there were times when really, truly, I was the only person who believed it, because I think other people, I got almost embarrassed to tell people I was still doing it, because their next question is, well, when are you going to get something published, or do you have anything published? And that it got so painful to have to say no, that I just didn't tell people anymore that I was still doing it. I thought, I'll just wait till I get published, and then I can tell you that I did it. So it almost became, I came out of my closet as a writer, but then I went back in it, because it was just too painful, because I believed I could still do it, but other people didn't. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to show you. And that's, again, that spirit that my grandma gave. I'll show you, I can do it, kind of a spirit.
I must get that from my dad's side of the family. I'm that way with my health issues. A lot of people think, oh, you know, just give in to it, you're gone.
Oh,
but I'm determined that I'm going to beat them. And but I know what you're saying, because I don't like to go out when I'm not feeling well, because I'm not going to say, oh, I feel great, when I feel like heck.
Yeah, I get that, Luann. Oh my gosh.
So I just, you know, and I don't want to be a negative person. So I know I can understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely. It is. We're kindred spirits that way. And, you know, you have to be a little stubborn sometimes, because I think that's the strength that you get to hang in there.
Well, if you lose hope, what is there?
I know. Exactly. Funny thing about that 11 years, so it wasn't 11 years that I wasn't writing and submitting, because I did, and I kept every one of my rejection letters that I got.
Oh, did you?
I got a binder that I put every one of them in, because I remember thinking, someday when I get published, I'm going to look back at all these, and they're receipts for the dues I paid to get published. And so I kept them, and I've counted them, and there's 67 rejection letters.
That is a lot.
It's pathetic.
Oh,
it's pathetic that
I think it's amazing to me that I would be so crushed, I'd probably just crawl in a hole.
Oh, I feel sorry for my mailman, because he would bring me my reject. You can tell it's a rejection because they send you back your manuscript.
Oh.
Back in the day, before we could electronically submit stuff, they'd send you back your manuscript with a little letter, a rejection letter that said, sorry, this doesn't suit our needs, or this isn't right for us. And, you know, you'd kind of go into a little depression for a day, a week, a month, a year. You know, sometimes it took a while to get over it.
Well, you've really emerged. I'm amazed. You have so many. How many books you've got now?
Well, my 23rd was
23.
Released back in September was my 23rd book. So.
Wow. I know, and so far everyone I've read has been amazing. So.
You're sweet. Thank you so much. And you know, even though I'm getting older and there's still so much in me. I almost feel anxiety, like, oh, I gotta hurry, because I feel like there's still so much I want to get out, and reinventing myself and trying something new. And I just got approval to start something that's a whole quantum leap different than what I usually write. And luckily my editor was like, yeah,
I'm interested.
Yeah. I'm really inspired by strong. This is funny that we're talking about this, because I'm seeing the connection now because of what we just talked about. I am drawn to stories of strong women in history who have overcome amazing things. Esther in the Bible is one of my favorite biblical characters. I love her. Joan of Arc, love her. Women who have faced and changed history, really. And so I want to, and that I try and write about women who grow through the story and emerge strong and kind of take charge of their life, and don't let their circumstances dictate who they are. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I write characters I want to become or want to be, because I maybe don't have quite their strength that they have, but I want them to have that strength. I don't know. There might be something to analyze in therapy through that. I don't know. But that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take one of those characters from history and pattern a character after one of them. And I am so excited. It'll be historical, and it will be a real thrill for me. A huge, like, I'll show you my stack of books that I'm currently reading.
Oh, wow.
That's my research that I've been reading. That's a lot of books to get through, but again, all of them are just things that I'm trying to glean from.
You enjoy scuba diving. Are you going to be writing books?
Oh, you're so cute that you brought that out. So here's my scuba diving situation. I love snorkeling. I love traveling to tropical places. When we went as a family to Hawaii, we took a day scuba lesson where you can go learn how to do it in one day, and then you go on a dive. Loved it. I was so good at it. I'm like, okay, I like this. I can do it. So when we got home, my husband and I and a couple of other family members decided to go get scuba certified because it was such a great experience. I have water issues. Okay. I never took swimming as a child. I didn't really, and I would go swimming with my friends, and always there was that dumb boy who liked to go dunk the girls and like shove them under the water just to be cute. And it would scare me because I would like breathe in the water and I'd come up choking and think, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. So I have some water fears. So it was huge for me to go scuba diving that day. So we went through the scuba certification, and there's this thing you have to do is you have to let water into your mask and that covers your nose, and learn how to clear it, because when you're scuba diving, if that happens, you've got to be able to clear the water out. And it terrified me to do that because I thought, I'm going to breathe it in, I'm going to breathe it in, I'm going to die. But I did it in the pool. Great. No problem. I'm like, okay, I can do this. We had to do our final dive where we had to pass off all the elements of the dive. And we did it up in a place called, it's up by Park City. Starts with an H. It'll come to me. Hiram. No. Yes. Hiram.
There's Hiram up there.
Yeah, It's up there. There's this place that has this deep, warm water. It's like a hot spring kind of place, but it's really dark and the water's really warm. And they do their dives up there because otherwise the water around here is pretty cold. Like all the lakes would be freezing. So that's where we did our final dive. It was hot. The water was warm. It was dark, and we had to do this, and we're down 40 feet, and we have to go clear our mask. Well, what do you think I did? I inhaled the water, and I'm 40 feet under, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm breathing. I'm choking. And so I'm like swimming up to the surface, which is the number one worst thing you can do because first of all, you go up too fast, you can mess up, your head can explode, I think, something like that bad. All the cells in your body will explode or something. It's really bad. It's bad to do what I did. But I'm like, I've got to get to the surface. I can't breathe. And anyway, I get to the surface, and the guy is like freaking out at me. He's like, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, I'm going to die. I can't breathe. And so anyway, my career ended right there that day. I'm like, I can never go do that again. It's
no.
so bad. And I know I need to work through my fears, and maybe someday I'll dare to do it.
Well, write aquatic book stories, and then you'll get excited
Well,
about it.
I did one of my books that takes place in Hawaii. I have her have that experience. I have her do it because I
I've
thought,
read the
wait
one.
a minute,
Is that the only one?
okay. It didn't do it. So now my husband dives and I just snorkel on the surface
Oh,
because
well, have him help you write it.
yes, I don't know. I've got to work through that fear because I can't even watch. Do you remember the movie? Are we running out of time? Do you remember the movie Poseidon Adventure when the ship tips over?
Hmm. Hmm.
They have to swim under the water from one place to get to the other side
Right.
so they can get saved. I was watching that movie having a full-on anxiety attack because I'm like,
Wow.
I was trying to hold my breath thinking, could I do it? Could I do it? And I'd hold my breath and watch them swim. Every time I would like, oh, I'd be dead because I can't hold my breath that long.
That is bad.
I have issues. I have issues. But I know I need to work through them. So we'll see. I'll let you know.
But you are into physical fitness.
Oh, big time. Big time. Oh yeah. I've taught physical fitness classes since 1983 is when I started.
Wow.
If you remember the movie Electric Horseman
Uh-huh.
with Jane Fonda and Robert Redford, that was shot in St. George. I was actually in that movie.
Really? How
It
exciting.
was a very small part, but it was so fun to be part of that movie. But Jane Fonda was just starting her fitness stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so she would actually open up her classes so she could exercise, and she would let people go in and exercise with her. And that's where it started for me. I loved it so
Wow.
much. And so I just started pursuing. I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be a fitness instructor.
So
And
how long have you been doing that?
since 1983.
Wow. That is a
Before
long time.
aerobics was even a thing, it was just starting when I started it.
Yeah.
That
I
whole
did some
phase.
Jane Fonda, but I was really into Joni Greggins.
Oh, yeah, I love Joni. Yes, yes. So see, but those women kind of paved the way for all that. But yeah, I've been teaching, and I still teach now. I teach 8 to 10 classes a week.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is amazing because my husband kept saying every time I'd hit my decade, like at 30, when are you going to retire? And I said, well, I'll probably retire at 40. At 40, I didn't retire. At 50, I didn't retire. I'll be 60 next year, and I don't
Wow.
know. I don't know if I'll retire or not.
Keep going as long as you can is what
I
I
know.
say.
I keep telling, because I teach Zumba, which is dance fitness right now. I tell my ladies, we'll just dance to our graves. We'll just keep dancing until we, fall into our coffins because I love it so much. It keeps me young and healthy. And
I started with health issues, and that kind of killed my aerobics days.
you know what? I'm worried that an injury or something like that is going to be my demise because
Well, let's hope not.
I hope not, but I'm trying to outrun it. I'm trying.
But you're doing good. Okay. What are your top 10 goals within the next 10 years you want to accomplish?
Okay, I have some definite top 5, and then my bottom 5 would probably be more fun based. But I definitely want to see. I want to start. So, like I was telling you, I'm jumping into a different genre for a little bit. I'll always write my contemporary romance stuff, but I'm going to jump into more historical fiction, and I really want to make that successful. Like I'm determined to have some of those books become like what my most successful books. And I'd love to get a book on a bestseller list, like on a New York Times bestseller list. I mean, let's think big, right? Let's think big. So I'd love to see something I write, make it onto a bestseller list. I would like to get a book made into a movie. I have a good friend named Jenny James who just had one of her books made into a very successful movie. And
Wow.
she's a doll, and she's like, I'm going to help you. We're going to do this. And so she's
Super.
helped me learn how to write screenplays. That's a new thing. I'd like to get into that. That's always been a dream. In fact, I watch a movie and I'm more interested about who wrote it and how that movie was made instead of who's in it. I don't want to be the star of the movie. I want to write that movie.
Mhm.
So that's how I think. So a lot of it's writing based, but I want to go to Thailand. You've talked to me about traveling to different places that I research my books. So we've got a trip in a couple of years scheduled, hopefully for Thailand. This year I'm going to spend some time in the UK and go to Scotland and do some research.
Oh, awesome.
Based on
That's one of my lists.
Is it? Well,
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to have a daughter and her husband who live there. And so I'm going to go live with her for about a month and do some research and hopefully get my book. So that's another one of my goals, is to go do that, which will happen this summer, and start doing research for that story. I've actually started. I'm just going to get some of my logistics figured out and locations for that. Most of them are writing based goals for me. I really don't see anything stopping in terms of my writing. In fact, now that my family's older and getting more established, I have a lot more free time, and that's what I see myself doing. And luckily I exercise, because writing is such a sedentary thing, except when you're researching, traveling. I mean, I sit all day writing. So it's good that I also teach, because it gets me out of my chair and makes me go do something athletic, so I can balance that out a little bit. But, I think that I'm trying to talk my son into writing a science fiction book with me. He's very much into science fiction, and he is such a good writer, and I'd love to collaborate with him.
How old is he?
He's turned 33. He'll be 34 this year.
So he's settled.
Yeah. He's my boy that's been through a whole lot, and I feel like he could take a lot of that and put in a story and really.
Is that the one with the cancer?
Yep. He can give it a lot of depth because of what he's been through, and I feel like that could really play into the story quite well. So that's my goal, is to write with him. I'd love to write a story with him. So as long as and to continue my writing, and I want to actually release more books. I'm trying to get back into at least one a year. I used to do 2 a year, so I think I could do one contemporary and then one of my historical type books.
Now, are you going to continue with the series, or are you going to continue with standalones? Your last ones have been kind of standalones.
Standalones, right? Yeah, You're right. No, I would like to do a new series in my contemporary books. So I'm trying to come up with something that would sustain that, either through characters or through a story that would require at least 3 books. So one of my ideas that my editor wants me to pursue is, the Jason Bourne books or stories. I love just these characters that are just so hot.
Those are some of my favorite.
Are they? Oh, me too. So I think I'd like to write a story about a character who has that kind of an experience, and it takes her into Europe and into some of the darker sides of Europe, and how she's kind of one of those unsuspecting heroines that she very doesn't want to do it, but ends up being thrust into a situation where she's got to step up and make something happen. So I feel like that's on the horizon for me, because I keep playing with the idea, and I keep writing in the back of my head that story. So I think it needs to come out. That's usually how I know I need to write a book. I can't forget about it. It won't leave me alone.
I hear that a lot. I guess that's why I probably will never write, because I don't get those pictures. I live the books, but I don't really get those pictures in my head.
Oh, well, but I here's 2 things. I do feel like people like you are so incredibly valuable to a writer, because we want you to have that experience. I find it so magical. This is the part about books that just fascinate me, that I can make up something in my head, write a book about it. You as a reader can read it and have your own something magical happen for you that translates from me to you through the book.
And that's why I think you're an incredible writer, because your books I just live them.
Oh, that is the highest compliment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, I understand there's a giveaway you're going to offer our
Yeah,
What
yes.
is it?
Oh,
Could you tell
I
us
would love
about
to
it?
give, I would love to give everything I have to my readers. I mean, I've got my most recent book. It's a story that takes the reader to Brazil, which is
Oh,
again
wow.
a place that I was able to go visit and write about. So what I love about stories is that you can have your armchair vacations. So this is one of those perfect for summer reading books because you get to have a little Brazil vacation while you're reading it. So I'd love to give away
Super.
some copies of my book. It's called Wish Me Love. And I don't know if you can see on my wrist, I've got these little threads. In Brazil, they have these bracelets that are called wish bracelets. And you tie the bracelet on and you tie 3 knots, and with each knot you get to make a wish. And
Oh, how fun.
when the bracelet falls off, your wishes come true. But I've already been through 2 bracelets, and I've tied on 2 more because I keep needing to wish things. Um, but the I don't know what it is, but it works. And I think there's something about exercising faith in these things and making it happen, like focusing on it and exercising the faith. I know it's not just a wish, but I do feel like it reminds me that there's some important things that I want to see happen in my life, or my family's life, whoever I've made the wish for. And
How
so
cool.
those are in the book. I put the wish bracelets in the book. So I will include a wish bracelet
Oh,
with the
wow.
book, and
Great.
I'd love to give out one of my stories and then an ebook. If someone lives far away and I can't maybe send the book to them, I'm happy to send a book though anywhere in the world with a wish bracelet, whatever works best for whoever wins that.
Super.
I'm happy to do that.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I mean, I
Is,
figure if I can't go travel there, I'll send a book there and let my book go have that.
that is awesome. Uh, is there a final comment you'd like to make before we close?
I would like to say this, and I was going to tell you too. I feel like everyone has a story, and maybe not everyone will write their story, but I do feel like everyone has lived an amazing life, and the experiences you've had, good or bad, have really shaped the person you've become. So own your story, and if you want to write it, dare to do it, dare to dream, and dare to believe that you can, because I'm telling you, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's just how bad you're willing to make it, how bad you're willing, how much you're willing to work to make it happen. And I was willing to work really hard, but hopefully someone out there, if they want to write, contact me. I'd love to help you. I'd love to share with you what I've learned. But I do believe that our stories are who we are and what make us part of the human race and make us connect and give us that connection. And I love that. So
And
celebrate
we
that.
will be putting all your medias on my blog, rockinbookreviews.com.
Thank you.
And so we hope that all of our listeners will go to your blog and search out your books and start reading them if they haven't already.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Luann. I love you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. This has been such a joy to me. So, okay, but so for now, we want to encourage everybody to search the universe through books, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye-bye.